how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ernest Saves Christmas from 1988. This was directed by John Cherry and stars Jim Varney in his famous Ernest character. We also have Oliver Clark, Noelle Parker, and Douglas Scale in this movie. Now this one was a childhood classic for me. Growing up, I watched a ton of the Ernest movies, and this is clearly one of the best ones. We would always, without fail, play it around Christmas time, and this was such a big part of my childhood. I absolutely love this movie. And I wish this movie would make it onto more people's top 10 Christmas list. When I watch other people's top 10s, I don't see this pop up that often, but this was definitely a top 10 for me. And I am curious if you guys have any movies like that. Movies that your family watched every Christmas, but you feel don't get talked about enough in a wider sense. I feel this is definitely one of those. Jim Varney as Ernest brings so much charisma to this role. The way that he loves Christmas, he really gets into it, he's trying to help everybody out, but of course he's causing all these wacky antics. There's so much life and energy in this film, but also, when you think about it, a good sense of character. And this movie really does have some powerful moments. It builds up to a really fun over-the-top finale at the ending, and it's just a movie that I've always liked ever since I was a kid. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out, and if you haven't really seen too much Ernest movies, I would definitely recommend checking more out as well, in particular Goes to Camp and Scared Stupid. But that being said, what is this particular movie about? Well, in Ernest Saves Christmas, we get Ernest as a taxi driver in Orlando when one day he picks someone up from the airport who claims to be the real Santa Claus. It turns out in this movie, Santa Claus is a position that gets handed down every so often because one person can only keep the magic alive for so long. This Santa has held it longer than he should have, and if he doesn't appoint a successor by 7 o'clock tonight, there might not be any Christmas magic left. He's having Ernest drive him to Joe Carruthers, who is a local TV personality who does children's puppet shows. We see him doing a volunteer puppet show for some local kids, and easily within this one scene, you can tell how much this guy cares, and you can see the goodness in his heart, and that he wants to do what's best. But Santa arrives there at the same time as this guy's agent, a big over-the-top Hollywood type, and he says, "Hey, forget whatever this other guy's saying, you have to come with me. I got you a role in a new horror movie." And yeah, the horror movie they're trying to make is called Christmas Sleigh, but of course not a sleigh is in the ride, a sleigh is in the massacre, and of course someone would eventually later make a real Christmas Sleigh movie, and at the time of recording, of course, it's on Tubi. You see him on the set of this horror movie, this big alien pops out and they're telling him to swear at it and shoot at it, and he's like, that's not really what I do, what if some kid sees me in this role? And we can see here that Joe doesn't really know what to do about this. He's really low on money, the kids' show didn't pay enough, but this really isn't a good fit for him, and he has to decide if he's going to give up part of himself. And of course, Ernest and Santa have to manage to get through this guy's agent, as well as a bunch of other wacky shenanigans, and try to talk Joe into taking up this new job. Well, first believing in Santa, and then deciding to be the new one. While all this is going on, Ernest does get a sidekick, a young teenage runaway named Harmony Starr, but of course that's not her real name. Her parents are going through a messy breakup, so she decides to run away, and she thinks, okay, I now know the world's hard, I think I know who I have to be to take it. And right off the bat, we can see there's a ton of characterization in here, and I really do love where this film puts everybody. They all have a clear place, a clear problem, and what they need to do and learn. For example, take Joe. They establish him as someone who really cares, really wants to do the right thing, but throughout his life hasn't been rewarded for it. Does he take the next step that seems to be the only thing he can do at this point, even though that means giving up who he was? But yeah, I like this plot. I love seeing someone who lives their life, knows who they are, knows what's important to them, but then to question that and say maybe it never really amounted to much, maybe I should give that up, and Santa's trying to encourage him to not do that and instead take the plunge, double down, you know who you are, be it. And that also fits really nicely with Harmony's story. Like I said, Harmony wasn't her real name, it was Pamela, but she gave that up. She said, I'm not my old self. Her childhood was sort of disillusioned when her parents started to break up, and now she's trying to think, okay, I know how the real world works, and every now and then she'll be like, Ernest, you're too naive. You can't be so trusting. And a lot of this, I feel, is really how a teenager would react. So many times they try to do it too over the top and make them too angry. And to be honest, if they pushed it too far, it really could have ruined the movie. She's an angsty teen, but it's fairly realistic, and she's not so angsty that she can't join in on Ernest's shenanigans. They have to dress up like a snooty government type and the mayor's niece to break Santa out of jail, and you can see her getting into this character even though it is playing and it is something she's not supposed to do, but you can tell that that's what she actually does want to do. So it's a similar plot to Joe, someone who had a happy old life but is feeling they have to get rid of it, whereas Joe, it comes much later in his life. This is someone who's questioning that much earlier. And there's this scene kind of towards the end of her plot where a little girl delivers a hard-hitting line to her, and it's a moment in the film I really like that kind of does bring this whole thing around. And then we also get a really good character from Santa himself. We can see that Santa loves his job. He loves being Santa to the point where he's held on to it way too long. If he doesn't hand over the magic to someone this year, it's over. And he's gotten himself in trouble. He's racing against the clock, literally because he loves it too much and has held on to it for way too long. And he really is a good Santa. They arrest him, and he's surrounded by all these hardened criminals in his holding cell, but then the next time we cut back to them, he's got them all singing Christmas carols. And when they try to take him away, the prisoners are like, you better not mess with Santa. And I love how this is a Santa that can so easily win people over with his charisma. And no joke, the Santa in this movie is easily one of the top 10 Santa Clauses in movie history. And I won't spoil it, but towards the end of Santa Claus's plot, I really do like that they kind of put him in a position where he can't really impact the plot. He has to trust that the other three characters are going to do what they need to do. And this is really important because so much of Santa's message was about trusting in people and having faith in them and knowing that they'll do the right thing. So to put Santa at a position where he just has to wait and hope that he can rely on his philosophy, hope that he was right, hope that people really will come through, it is a great place to put him towards the end of the movie. And again, another moment in this film that I feel really is a good idea. While he doesn't necessarily have the biggest character journey, Ernest is the glue that holds the movie together. As I said earlier, Jim Varney is putting his all into this. He has all of his sayings, all of his jokes, you know what I mean? And of course we get a scene that illustrates his character, where he finds a Christmas tree and wants to bring it to Vern, because he knows Vern doesn't have one. He's trying to be helpful, but of course he's going to wreck most of Vern's living room trying to put it up. We also get some great disguises in this movie. Ernest goes to the Hollywood backlot by pretending to be the snake wrangler, and he says to the security guy, hey, do you want one for your boy? And then he puts his hat on his heart and says, I got one for my boy. Great dark joke there. He's pretending to be an overbearing mother at one point. I had 2 kids, a good son and a bad son, and wouldn't you know it, the good one dies. Boy, that one always stuck with me. And of course, the world of Ernest is big and cartoony. You get the two friend character trope, and in this one, they're working in customs and Santa is shipped over his reindeer, and we get the reindeer breaking out of their boxes and flying to the roof. But because they didn't have all the CGI in the world back in the day, you get to see how they kind of cleverly cut around that. You hear the whooshing sound and you get the character's reaction watching them fly to the roof, and then you get a really fun upside down set for the roof, and all the reindeers are kind of walking around up there. I do love the old days when they had to think around their problems and come up with a fun solution. They of course do save most of the budget for the end. There's a big over-the-top race against the clock sequence with Ernest and a couple of the elves, and an appropriately energetic finale to this film. Overall, if you haven't seen it, Ernest Saves Christmas is one that I really love, and I definitely recommend everybody checking it out. Yeah, maybe some of the moments are a little too corny and over the top, or sometimes the special effects might be too cheap, but honestly, that's part of its charm. Cause yeah, this one is definitely a classic. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you, you really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see me talk about more Christmas movies, you should be able to click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.